Alrighty. I know I'm kind of late to the party on this one, but I'll be ranking every single SpongeBob movie, giving my personal thoughts on the movie, and giving the plot of the whole movie. And these are all my opinions, so if my opinion is not what you thought it was going to be, please don't shoot me with a gun. Do we even have to explain SpongeBob? SpongeBob is amazing. Or was amazing. I would just watch season 1 to 3 because that's the only good seasons, because they actually felt like they were planned, while all the rest of them just kind of felt like they were just there to make a quick buck on SpongeBob, me boy. But how is SpongeBob now? How is he? Is he still a good TV show character? Is he still likable to this day? Well, that is a very tough question in my opinion. I don't think SpongeBob is technically dead. I feel like they should have ended this guy after Steven passed away, which, rest in peace, by the way. He was the GOAT and made our childhoods come to life. Like, rest in peace. And I feel like Nickelodeon is doing a pretty good job honoring him. I know it doesn't look like it, but they're doing a good job. I don't think the current SpongeBob movies are, like, the worst thing in the world, but they're definitely not the best thing in the world. So, to celebrate the new SpongeBob movie Search for Squrepants, I thought it'd be a great idea to rank every SpongeBob movie, including some spin-offs, today in one video. Let's get started. I'm Goofy Goober! The SpongeBob movie. Oh my god. Where do I even begin with a masterpiece of a movie this is? I'm not pulling your leg here. This is actually a good movie, and probably even a masterpiece, honestly. This was intentionally planned to be the last thing of the SpongeBob series, and was intended to be the series finale of the SpongeBob series. And you can definitely tell they put a lot of hard work into this, and a lot of special moments in this movie, which I really appreciate. The production of this movie was kind of crazy. It's like, because back then, Steven didn't originally plan to make this movie because he didn't think that SpongeBob would work as a full movie thing, which, honestly, is a good reason. SpongeBob is a great idea for a movie, but spanning it to, like, a 90-minute movie is kind of a hard task. And at the time, Steven was kind of getting tired of seeing SpongeBob all over the place. So, at the time, SpongeBob was the big thing back in the day. He was marketed all over the place. He was getting NASCAR racers, a lot of props, getting a waffle maker. It's like everything with his face on it is there. It's kind of sad seeing your own creation of a character get marketed so much, but not as much as you, which is kind of sad. So how is the movie to today? How is the first SpongeBob movie? How is it? Is it still good? Is it still a masterpiece? Is it nostalgia as we thought it was? This movie is actually amazing, actually. I love the story. I love SpongeBob's arc here. Everything was perfect for our season finale. It was all perfect, and it was all handled so well. There are some characters that didn't get enough screen times. Considering this was the finale, it was kind of to see Squidward, Sandy, and all the rest of the characters not get enough screen time, which I think was disappointing if they were actually planning to end SpongeBob here. Patrick is actually likable here. He's not, oh, I'm stupid just to be funny, or just be stupid to make you annoyed. He's actually funny stupid. He's not like annoying stupid. He's funny stupid. You're probably asking what the movie is even about. Sure, it's a SpongeBob movie, but what is the movie even about? Well, it's about SpongeBob being ready to be in the Krusty Krab 2 manager, but then figures out he's not gonna be the Krusty 2 manager, and then goes to Gooby Goobers to cry all night long. And while that is happening, Plankton actually steals Neptune's crown and then frames Mr. Krabs for stealing it. So Neptune, thinking Mr. Krabs stole his crown, he freezes Mr. Krabs, and then SpongeBob makes a bet with Neptune that if he can get the crown, he unfreezes Mr. Krabs. So SpongeBob and Patrick go on an adventure to get Neptune's crown so they can unfreeze Mr. Krabs. And yeah, I know, you think this might be like the most simple and kind of predictable story, but actually it's not. I think they executed the plot so well in this movie. And while SpongeBob and Patrick are going to get the crown, SpongeBob is having some emotional stuff here. So in this movie, everybody thinks SpongeBob is a kid because he's doing kid activities. So SpongeBob wants to prove everybody by going to get the crown in Shell City, the most dangerous place in the whole ocean. But as SpongeBob goes through the whole film, he actually realizes that being a kid is not bad. You can still be a kid while you're growing up. And I gotta say, for a SpongeBob movie with a great lesson about being a kid, this is actually really well done. Some of the jokes are actually pretty funny and actually got me laughing a few times, actually. So at the end, SpongeBob and Patrick almost die by a lamp, which was actually a pretty emotional scene in my opinion. Please do not judge me. They actually get the crown and actually escape Shell City, but they don't know how to get back home. So then, I'm not making any of this up, by the way, David Hasselhoff shows up and promises SpongeBob he can get them back home. So David Hasselhoff swims over the ocean, and they get to the Pacific part of Bikini Bottom, and then David Hasselhoff, the man, the legend, the myth, uses his nipples to get SpongeBob and Patrick home. And then SpongeBob and Patrick defeat Plankton. Overall, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is definitely a classic movie. It's got the right heart, it's got the right message, it's got likable characters, and great character growth. The 2D animation is very great, and some of the comedy actually hit me. And SpongeBob's growth in the movie was actually pretty sweet, and it actually was emotional at times. If you are a fan of SpongeBob, you're gonna love the hell out of this movie. But if you're not, like someone I know on YouTube, you will definitely not love this movie. SpongeBob just has an amazing character growth, and I just really like to see him grow for this movie. And that's probably going to be the rest of the problems for the other sequels. I do have one complaint with the movie. This was planned to be the season finale for the whole show, and some of the characters we do know, like Squidward or Sandy, didn't get enough screen time in my opinion, which was kind of disappointing to me. And I honestly do think the conflict of this movie is so stupid. Like, why did Squidward get the promotion? He barely did anything in the whole series, which, by the way, I do love my boy Squidward. He's kind of the GOAT, but he seriously didn't do anything. Except for that time where he stood up for SpongeBob in that pizza episode. That's the only thing he's been doing. That's the only thing he has done. I don't know what Mr. Krabs sees in Squidward to get the promotion. Overall, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie was a good movie, and it definitely felt like it was made by the same people who made the show, and I really respect that, and it made me want to appreciate this whole movie a lot more. So overall, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie was an amazing movie in that it will inspire us from childhood.
Yeah! Here we go now.
So, Sponge Out of Water is considered one of the worst SpongeBob movies of all time. It's not technically the worst one, but it does have bad reviews, and it's kind of called the worst one. So, you're probably thinking, what does Brayden the Me think about it? I liked it. Is Sponge Out of Water the perfect movie? No, not even close. But it's a perfectly enjoyable film if you don't take it too seriously. I think the reason people don't like this movie that much because this movie was halfly animated. Because the movie made a thought that the movie was only going to be live action. The live action doesn't happen until the middle half of the movie, which the trailers kind of lied to us. The plot of this movie is centered around Captain Beard. He's trying to steal a book, and then he kind of fails and then goes back to a ship, and then he tells a story about SpongeBob. And there's a theory going around about Bikini Bottom that everybody loves the Krabby Patties because it's amazing, I guess. But then there's some talks about the secret formula. Nobody must know about it. And at the end, we still don't know about it. It's kind of still a secret. So the movie begins with a war sequence with Plankton trying to steal the formula, and then he eventually does. But then the formula disappears, and Mr. Krabs gets mad and forces Plankton to give it back to him, which I don't think you can because it literally disappeared. But here's the thing. It wasn't Plankton's fault that the formula disappeared. Sure, it's his fault when he was planning to steal the formula. It was still evil, but it wasn't his fault when the formula disappears, and then Mr. Krabs thinks he did it, so he now has to go find the formula, which is stupid. Anyway, back on the plot. After SpongeBob realizes that Plankton is not the bad guy and didn't technically make the formula disappear, he joins forces with them and tries to reason with Plankton. So SpongeBob and Plankton tried to make Bikini Bottom a better place instead of making it look like a war place, and they kind of failed at the start. But the next day, Plankton gets an idea to build a time machine, and SpongeBob and Plankton build a time machine. And they're actually getting along. This part was actually pretty sweet to see on screen, actually. It kind of brought me to tears a little bit. So SpongeBob and Plankton finally finished the time machine, and they put a quarter in it, and they fly through whatever the hell this is. And also, this banger song plays in the background.
Yeah! Here we go now.
SpongeBob and Plankton go through different time eras, but then come across Bubbles, a talking dolphin. But that doesn't really matter because they do get to the right time and they try to get the formula before this all happened. So they get the formula and they go back to the current time to stop things. But turns out SpongeBob grabbed the wrong formula, which, by the way, wasn't technically his fault. He couldn't honestly tell, which I won't blame him. SpongeBob and Plankton argue a bit, and they kind of break up a little bit. And then SpongeBob gets a speech, and then the other people don't listen. And they try to actually kill SpongeBob, but then SpongeBob mentions he smells Krabby Patties, and then Mr. Krabs saves him from dying, which I did not see that coming. You know why? Because Mr. Krabs is a greedy sorry, language. But then SpongeBob and the gang get to the surface of the ocean, and then they go on land, and they actually breathe and turn into CGI characters. And I'll admit, this was probably the best part of the whole movie, in my opinion. The animation actually looks good. They actually look like they're touching stuff in real life. But after some shenanigans, the SpongeBob gang finally comes across Burger Beard, who actually stole the book so he can get the formula, which I don't understand the logic of this movie, honestly. Then Pirate Beard uses the book and teleports them to a seashore where there are seagulls trying to kill them. But then SpongeBob writes in the book what they want to do so they can get out of there. They get out of there and they transform into superheroes and they stop Burger Beard and turn back to normal. But Squidward gets to keep his abs because Squidward's the goat, I guess. And, we don't know anything about the secret formula. And, plus, everything that Plankton and SpongeBob went through, like the whole friendship arc, didn't really matter because Plankton started to go back to a bad guy. So everything SpongeBob and Plankton went through was completely useless. And, we also don't know why people love the Krabby Patty. We don't know why. They don't explain why. You just say they love it. Because, I don't know, it has some special ingredients that Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob don't want to tell nobody. Maybe they could explore more of that, but for some reason, they didn't and focused on CGI elements because, I don't know, being CGI is cool and... Sponge Out of Water is a very confusing plot. It doesn't have great elements of the plot. Some of the plots are kind of stupid, honestly. This movie could have explored some things that would have made the movie a whole lot more better. Like, why does everybody love the Krabby Patty? Huh? Like, why? What is in the formula of the Krabby Patty? Why does Plankton and SpongeBob actually become friends? But nope, this movie doesn't make Plankton and SpongeBob friends. It just makes Plankton go back to being a bad guy, and the formula is never explained, and nobody explains why these people love the Krusty Krab and the Krabby Patty. That's how the movie ends. We don't learn anything. It was just SpongeBob and his gang having fun. This movie had some excellent themes for the movie, but it didn't. Plankton actually had a pretty good arc, but not until the end, because everything just goes back to normal, which I really hated. Like, they spent the entire movie hanging out and actually becoming good friends, but then they just suddenly give up on that arc and just make him back into a bad guy. Like, you were doing so good, Steven. Why did you turn him back into bad guy? The plot is very confusing. Like, Burger Beer is actually having the book while the events are actually happening. What? Like, how is he even reading the story if this art is happening, like, right now? How is he reading the book if this is actually happening right now? What is happening? The beginning of the plot doesn't make no sense. Why is everybody in the bikini bottom having a panic attack? Because no Krabby Patties are being served at the moment. And they just want the goddamn thing because, oh my god, I guess it's like the most tasteful thing you could ever taste into a movie. Like... What's so special about it? It's a burger, for God's sake! But I think some people might get mad at me. I don't think it's as bad as people make it to be. Sure, it's kind of stupid that everybody in the Bikini Bottom is now turning against SpongeBob because I guess he just put himself in a bubble with Plankton and just floated away. And then Mr. Krabs thinks, wait, you were working with Plankton the entire time, you son of a bitch! Hey, genius. Maybe if you let SpongeBob explain why he did in the first place and didn't stop interrupting him, maybe this could have been avoided the whole time. But no, Mr. Krabs still had to interrupt SpongeBob just to keep on torturing Plankton because the formula disappeared, which we don't know why it's important, but... God, I don't want to explain more of this. This is getting on my nerves! I guess the plot of SpongeBob and Plankton actually becoming friends was actually a sweet moment. But sucked about it? The fact that they didn't even do anything about it. Plankton actually starts to be a good guy in the beginning of the movie, which I think was cool. But then they just throw it all away for him to be a bad guy again. I think it's so stupid, man. I think the 2D animation and the 3D animation and the live action segment was a pretty good part. I think animation was still pretty good. but the plot and the characters don't make a lot of more sense to me, man. And the story is kind of confusing as hell. Overall, Sponge Out of Water was a really confusing film, in my opinion. But if you don't take anything seriously like the story and the characters, it's a pretty good time, and the jokes actually go hard. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this was Steven's last movie before he actually died in real life. So, rest in peace, Steven Hillenburg. You made my childhood and everybody else's childhood come to life. Thank you very much. But, back on topic. Sponge on the Run is actually a good... Like those words would come out of my mouth. This movie is garbage. This movie just missed the spot. Actually, missed the spot completely. It missed completely. It didn't even try to hit it. This movie honestly felt like a big commercial for Nickelodeon's new TV show called Camp Corals. Wait, Camp Coral? What is that? What does this have to do with the movie? How is that a problem? How do they do that? How do they product placement that? You might want to find out later, because when I do tell you, you will absolutely lose your mind. And I will certainly lose mine too. Let's go over the plot. It's not a big plot. It's not like it copied the same movie again. So this movie starts with SpongeBob hanging out with Gary, having a good time. And I will admit, this is actually a pretty good part of the movie, and actually does carry this movie a little bit. And then we go to King Poseidon, which I don't know what's the difference. King Neptune and King Poseidon are basically the same thing, but I don't care. This movie has to do something. So King Poseidon is a guy who only cares about himself and is running out of snail glue. What has this show become? Look, I know it looks bad, but please just trust the process. Anyway, so Plankton actually hears about this and actually gets a good idea to steal Gary and give it to Poseidon. I bet you all can see where this is gonna go. And also, we get to learn about SpongeBob and Gary. Apparently, they met at Camp Coral when SpongeBob was just a kid. And honestly, this did make me cry, because it kind of explains what SpongeBob did as a kid. And I think it kind of explains it well. So it cuts back to current time, and SpongeBob goes home to check on Gary, and then realizes that Gary is gone, and actually starts to get sad, which is kind of relatable. Gary is the GOAT. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or how Gary is the GOAT, go watch the TV show, and then you'll fully understand why this snail is the absolute GOAT of the series. So, naturally, SpongeBob puts a lot of posters and starts asking every single one of his friends if he knows where Gary is. Look, as stupid as this situation sounds, we gotta save Gary. This is actually very important. Gary is the GOAT. But after a whole day, SpongeBob hasn't figured out where Gary is. But after Patrick shows up, the two finally realize that Gary is in Atlantis, the lost of city. So they pack their bags and have this weird robot named Otto. I don't know why people hate him. Oh, that's why. Oh, God. So SpongeBob and Patrick go on a road trip to find Gary. I don't know if you see the problem. I think the problem is clearly on screen. I don't know if you see the problem, but it's there. It's there. So our boys end up in this desert place. I don't know if they're actually above water or still underwater, but I can't honestly tell. They come across Sage. Get it? Because he's a sage, and that's why his name's Sage, because he's a sage, and that's why he's called Sage. By the way, this guy is voiced by Keanu Reeves. And that's one of the biggest problems with this movie. This movie, just has a itch for cameo issues. It's not the biggest problem, but, there's a lot of celebrities in this movie. What do you want me to say? But after that fiasco, SpongeBob and Patrick finally reach Atlantis. Meanwhile, back on Bikini Bottom, there's actually a lot of panic going around because nobody knows how to make a Krabby Patty, and the business kind of gets shut down, and Mr. Krabs starts to get depressed. But after Sandy and everybody knows what the hell is going on, they decide to go save SpongeBob and get in this subway machine, or subway car, I guess. I don't remember anything from the movie. And actually, Plankton actually starts to feel bad for Mr. Krabs, and he decides to join the gang to save SpongeBob. Because apparently enslaving a whole town was okay, but stealing somebody's pet snail was just taking it too far. It was just, I think it was just too hard, man. I think Plankton was like, oh my god, this is actually too far. What have I become? I mean, enslaving a whole town was okay, but no, bro, why steal a snail? I gotta help now. That doesn't make sense, okay? That part doesn't make sense. Because enslaving the town was okay, but then stealing somebody's snail was too far, and he starts to be a good guy now. But I bet to you, he will become a bad guy again. Just because of So SpongeBob and Patrick arrive at Atlantis, and they get drunk for some reason, and they get thrown in prison because they're so stupid. And then Sage gives them an expletive speech, and they go to try to save Gary, and then they're put in trial for court, which that doesn't make sense at all. And then the gang arrives, and they start talking about how great SpongeBob is. You know the product placement thing I was talking about earlier? This is where it comes in. You wanna know why? You know why Camp Coral is so important to this? Because everybody's flashback actually came from Camp Coral, and they start talking about how great SpongeBob is and how they changed him as a person. This is just literally just doing product placement for the sake of just, promoting Camp Coral. Oh, right. Where are my manners? You don't even know what Camp Coral is, probably. So, after this movie actually came out before Steven died, and he actually kind of knew about it, Nickelodeon made Camp Coral. It actually didn't run that long, but it was a thing that SpongeBob and all his friends did when they were kids. And this is where the product placement comes in, because everybody just talks about what happened, like how SpongeBob changed them as as a person at Camp Coral. This has got to be the most the most furious part about this whole movie. I promise to God, this is actually the most furious part about this whole movie, because everything in the flashbacks just feel like, you do not. Just everything about this part just feels like a product placement error. It's so annoying when movies do this. Ralph Breaks the Internet, Space Jam 2, and now Sponge on the goddamn Run. God, take me already! Sure, it's a nice thing on paper. It's actually perfect on paper. But for some reason, they made it about Camp Coral. Like, can you do it somewhere else? I don't know what Nickelodeon were even thinking. I can't technically blame Steven. It's just... It's like, God. So, SpongeBob and the gang actually escape from the guards, but then after some Scooby-Doo shenanigans, they actually get cornered by the guards, and this part is kind of emotional in my opinion. King Poseidon forces SpongeBob to hand over Gary. SpongeBob says he's not going to get over Gary, and actually does something very emotional. He tells everybody how Gary meant to him as a kid and now today, which I will admit is a very sweet part in my opinion. And then Poseidon starts to cry, and turns out Poseidon starts to think he was kind of a jerk and probably one of the worst people on the earth. But SpongeBob tells Poseidon that true beauty doesn't matter. The heart and the love that you give to people is what matters. So then, and I'm not making any of this part up, and please do not hate me for actually mentioning this part, Poseidon takes everything off, including the teeth. Just take a look at this, and you'll see what I meant.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, man.
You're welcome. So after that happens, everybody returns home, and everybody has a snail, and I will admit, this part is actually probably the best part of this whole movie because of how emotional it is. SpongeBob and Gary go do fun things at the end, And there is a little tribute to Steven Hillenburg, which, by the way, rest in peace. And that's the end of the movie. This movie was probably one of the worst things I have ever seen, and probably one of the worst things on this channel. It literally doesn't do anything new. It just basically tells the same story from the first movie. It's basically about SpongeBob and Patrick going to save something important. Doesn't that seem so familiar to you? And there's a lot of product placement for a TV show that I don't think nobody cared for or even watched. SpongeBob himself didn't even go through a character development. It was just, I guess, care for the people who you love the most, but that doesn't really go anywhere, honestly. He didn't really have a character moment here. He didn't even have a character arc from the beginning, honestly. Actually, scratch that. I don't think anyone went through a character development. This movie didn't care when making characters grow for the movie. There's also some other cameos that didn't really matter to the story at all. You could have removed basically all of them and it wouldn't matter. And given this was Steven's last project before he passed away, they kind of failed at making it at least okay. But hey, I do love the tribute at the end of the movie, which I think that was a really respectable thing to do at the end. And get this, when Spilling the Milk made a reaction to this movie, they actually had to cut a whole segment because they were roasted people who put the Steven tribute on the screen. Just take a look at this. This makes me mad.
Don't put his you
Do not put his name on this movie.
You evil. You shit on his grave.
Why do people lose their minds when the people behind this movie just want to do a tribute for the person who started this whole thing and created one of the best TV shows of all time? You know what? If you actually do this. You if you actually do this. I should probably make a video on that situation with Steven in it, but that's a topic for another day. And overall, The Sponge and Ron is not a good movie, but it did really feel like they did want to make this movie special for Steven, but it's kind of a terrible movie, honestly, so I wouldn't recommend. But overall, Sponge on the Run is not the best movie in the world. The Sandy Cheeks movie. So I actually reviewed this movie not too long ago. Well, actually, a long time ago. I recommend not to watch that video. That video was... But I cannot say enough how bad of a movie this is. This might even be worse than the Emoji Movie. I know that's a sin to say, but it really feels like it is. It feels more worse than the Emoji Movie, which is not a good sign. And that's sad too, because I was really excited to watch the movie, because it's Sandy we're talking about. Sandy. This is like my favorite character in the whole show. Like, come on now. But I'm gonna tell you right now, this movie is not worth a Netflix account. Hell, even before the movie even came out, it got leaked. The whole movie got leaked. That just shows you how bad this movie was. First off, let's go over the damn plot. So it follows Sandy and the whole Bikini Bottom crew, including Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs and everybody else on the island, gets captured by this company Sandy used to work for called Boots. I don't know what it stands for, and I don't even give a out saying it. So SpongeBob and Sandy go up to the surface to try to save their friends from the boot company. And while they do that, they actually meet Sandy's family. And I guess this was fine, honestly, but I didn't vibe with it. Nothing about this movie vibed. SpongeBob is a giant idiot here. Look, man, look. SpongeBob is not the smartest guy in the tale. You can definitely tell based on his look. But for some reason, Netflix got a great idea. This is what they said. Okay. Hear me out, guys. What if he made SpongeBob the sidekick? You know, because it's a Sandy movie. But what if he made him extremely stupid for this whole journey? And everybody just said, oh my god, that is so smart. This is perfect for our first character movie based off of SpongeBob. That's perfect. Every joke he attempts to do is so not funny. Scratch that. Every joke is not funny. What the hell am I even talking about? Every joke in this movie is terrible. Every character in Bikini Bottom that got captured is so forgettable, including Squidward. I'm sorry. The amount of anger that is about to unleash upon me. Even Sandy wasn't likable in the slightest. I don't know how you made her unlikable. She was pretty funny in the show and pretty likable in the show. But for some reason, they just had to ruin her character here. Like, how do you do that? Imagine if Steven saw this, he would be the most disappointed right now. Which, by the way, I am not one of those people who are like, oh my god, Nickelodeon has ruined his legacy with these garbage SpongeBob movies. No, I am not that person. If you actually think about that, you got to be the stupidest person on the world. Nickelodeon didn't choose to make Camp Coral because it's SpongeBob, and without Steven, we can milk it. I'm not that person. They choose to make it to honor his legacy. Obviously, a studio would not do that. Like, think about this, guys. And there is this stupid and kind of controversial scene in the movie where SpongeBob and Sandy go underwater, and SpongeBob is tickling people's feet. You're confused why this is a controversy? Well, watch something on Netflix, and you'll understand why. Overall, the Sandy Cheeks movie was a really disappointing start. I mean, when they leaked the whole movie, when some asshole leaked the movie online, you already knew it was going to be a horrible movie just because it got leaked. And from now on, people did not have hope for the other side character movies, like Plankton's Mr. Krabs, or even Patrick. That just shows you how much this movie failed. And let's hope the next one could be at least something better.
Welcome to Bikini Bottom at the bottom of the ocean.
Alrighty, I did not have hope for this movie because of the Sandy Cheeks movie. The movie was so bad, I didn't have hope for this one. But surprisingly, this movie was actually pretty great, honestly. It's actually kind of reminded me of the first SpongeBob movie because of the way it felt and how the comedy really got me. While it's not funny as the first movie, I definitely think it's funny, and that's a good thing for a SpongeBob movie. The plot of the movie goes like this. Plankton is doing some evil stuff as usual, and he kind of fails the first time. And then after doing some stuff that Karen does not like, Karen becomes a very evil machinery, and Plankton and SpongeBob and the gang have to stop her from destroying Bikini Bottom. Plankton also needs to learn how to change his way instead of being a big jerk to everybody. Okay, so I thought this movie's problem was going to be that SpongeBob was an idiot. But actually, he wasn't half bad. He actually acted like himself, which is clearly something the Sandy movie didn't do. In this one, SpongeBob actually acts like himself and actually tries to do something in this movie. He's not that really important, and he doesn't have a character arc, but he does play an important role in the story. He tries to get Plankton and Karen back together, which I think is a really nice thing for SpongeBob to do in this situation. And a fact, too, that the director of this movie is actually the voice of Plankton, which made this movie a whole lot more better to appreciate. This guy is the GOAT. And you know how I said it reminded me of the first SpongeBob movie, how it was paced like the SpongeBob movie? Well, not entirely like that, but it did make me feel like Steven directed this movie. Surprisingly, the story was actually pretty good. The story of Plankton trying to win over Karen's heart back after she goes evil is actually pretty sweet. This movie actually has art style this time. There's like different types of art styles, which I really love in this movie. It made it so much better to love this movie. I mean, for a movie that had a very low budget, I think the animation is very good. Also, every character in this movie is very likable. Every character in this movie is very likable. Actually, all the side characters from the last movie, like Patrick, Sandy, and Mr. Krabs, were not too bad, honestly. So, overall, the Plankton movie actually kind of reminded me of the first SpongeBob movie. The writing, the pacing, the characters, all reminded me of the first SpongeBob movie, which I really love. And it has a pretty good story, great characters, just an overall great movie, in my opinion. By the way, do you know the little problem with the Sandy movie, how it was leaked? Well, apparently there's something wrong at Netflix Studios because this movie was also leaked. For some reason, like, what is going on in Netflix? How are these movies getting leaked so bad?
Stop playing with them, Riot. Big God.
Alright, I talked about SpongeBob Search for SquarePants in the 2025 video, but my opinion is still kind of the same, honestly. The animation is good, but everything about it is mid. So the plot for our fourth SpongeBob movie in the franchise is SpongeBob and Patrick go to ride a huge roller coaster, but after looking at it, and kind of fair, honestly, people are actually dying on it, SpongeBob babies out and doesn't want to go on the ride. But then after discovering that Mr. Krabs has a swashbuckler ticket because he proved his bravery, SpongeBob wants to go on a quest to prove he's a big guy and get his swashbuckling certificate. There's also another problem. I don't know if you see it on the screen, but this movie is exactly the same thing as the first and the third movie. Why? Why are we copying the first movie again? It just kind of felt like they didn't know what to do with a pirate SpongeBob movie, so they just said, why the hell not, and just copy the same plot from the first movie into this one. But instead of being Min, it's Big Guy, because apparently Ice Spice wrote a song for the God, I can't escape that song. But here's something the movie tries to do. In this movie, the Flying Dutchman is in it, and the guy from Star Wars voices this guy. Apparently, the Flying Dutchman and SpongeBob have never met. That's weird. I swear to God, they could have met, but the Flying Dutchman takes SpongeBob and Patrick to unlock his curse so he can become human again. Honestly, not a bad plot for a pirate movie. And while that is happening, Mr. Krabs hears stuff in his basement and realizes that SpongeBob is gone. So he grabs Squidward and Gary. I don't know why Gary's here. And they go to save SpongeBob. And they have to go to some school for some reason. I feel like that was kind of unnecessary, but doesn't matter. It's part of the story. Fast forward for the movie, and Mr. Krabs finds SpongeBob and tries to convince him not to write his name on the certificate because he knows what the Flying Dutchman is going to do, but SpongeBob doesn't care and signs his name on, and SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs become ghosts, and the Dutchman is a human now. So it's basically a race against time. So at the end, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob turn into human again, and SpongeBob realizes that he doesn't need to be a big guy, he just needs to be himself. This would have been great if it wasn't the first movie plot. I cannot exaggerate this so much. This movie is basically the first one again, but with pirate elements. Some of the characters in this movie, like Plankton and like other characters, are so forgettable. And for some reason, they did this very weird scene with Sandy in the movie. Like a Paramount producer stops the film and begs some of the Paramount workers to put Sandy in the film. Just watch this scene, man.
We interrupt this movie for an important message from Paramount Studios.
This picture's gone completely off the rails. The only thing that can save it is some serious star power. Get Sandy Cheeks in this movie pronto.
Howdy do, SpongeBob.
I will admit, I did kind of laugh at that part. It was kind of hilarious in my opinion. Yeah. It was funny. Very funny. Whoa. Where were we? All right, the movie. It's a better movie than the third movie, but that doesn't mean it's still a good movie, honestly. Patrick was probably the more annoying parts about this whole movie. I know Patrick isn't the smartest guy in the world. I think I already said this, but I'm not even gonna say it. He's stupid in this one. I do generally love the dynamic with Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. It's like a father-son type of relationship. Mr. Krabs, cares a lot of SpongeBob in this movie, which was kind of surprising to me because I thought he was going to be greedy the whole entire time, which I do love how they tried to change his character, which it was kind of concerning. You want to know why? Because this was originally planned to be a Mr. Krabs spin-off movie, but then it got changed to a SpongeBob 4th movie. So I can kind of see why they added that in there. Some jokes are okay, and some are just stupid. And you guys are probably wondering, what do I think of Big Guy?
Stop playing with them, Riot. Big guy, big guy, big guy, big guy.
I think it's fine. It's like, do you guys know that song where you think it's a good song, but it gets so overplayed at some points where you just want it to die? That is exactly how I'm feeling right now. Overall, SpongeBob SquarePants, Search for Squrepants. That's a very confusing title. I think it's a fine movie. The animation is good, but everything else about it is mid. The story's mid, the characters are mid, and that's basically it. Just go watch the first movie. It was probably the only good one. And the Plankton movie. Just watch the SpongeBob and the Plankton movie. And that's it. And I declared this movie the mettest movie in the SpongeBob franchise of all time. So, if I had to describe the SpongeBob franchise in one word, it would be inconsistent. And as an inconsistent, it can be a good movie or sometimes a garbage movie. We started off pretty strong with the first SpongeBob movie being a nostalgia road trip for everybody who loves SpongeBob, and people who don't even love SpongeBob or even know SpongeBob can enjoy. And here we are to today. SpongeBob SquarePants, Search for Squrepants. Yes, like I said before, this series can be inconsistent at times. So that officially does it for the long-awaited SpongeBob SquarePants. Every movie I rated from the SpongeBob SquarePants franchise, all in one video. I'm really glad this video exists, because I really wanted to come out, but the DreamWorks video has been kicking my ass recently, but Whatever, I'm doing part 1 anyway. Shouldn't be dead. The movie I'm going to be stopping at DreamWorks part is How to Train Your Dragon, because I really don't feel like editing an hour long. I'll see you in the DreamWorks video. Alright, that does it for today's video. If you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on our goal of 200 subscribers, and I really appreciate it. So, to anyone out there, please subscribe. And have a blessed day. Bye. I don't want the end of the DreamWorks video. Please!